Good evening and welcome to the 2026 Princeton Making an Exoneree Showcase. My name is Chelsea Amelkin and I'm a co-professor of Making an Exoneree, and I'm also an attorney at the Innocence Project.
And my name is Yosha Ganasekara, and I am also a co-professor of the Making an Exoneree course, and I'm also an attorney at the Innocence Project. We are so excited to see you all here today in person and virtually. The MAE program was started 8.5 years ago by the wonderful Mark Howard and Marty Tancliffe, sitting in the front row. And they started this program because they believed in students' ability to uncover the truth and advocate for justice.
The films you'll see tonight reflect that belief. These amazing Princeton undergraduates sitting before us have spent the past several months reinvestigating 4 cases in the search of the truth. The documentaries that they have created reveal the injustices that kept 4 wrongfully convicted people behind bars for a combined 88 years and counting.
The work these students are doing is powerful. It helps shed light on cases and give hope to people who not only deserve justice, but are caught in a web of a legal system that often creates the exact opposite of justice.
Before we move into further programming, I'd like to acknowledge the people who have helped to make so much of this possible. Many accomplished speakers and experts have devoted countless hours pro bono to working with our students, offering their time, expertise, passion, and hearts to supporting our efforts to free the innocent. Let's please give these people a round of applause. Many of whom are with us here tonight as well, so thank you again in person.
And of course, our main focus tonight is on the students and their documentaries, but this wouldn't be possible without without Mark Howard, Marty Tancliffe, Sully Gaudreau, and Quinn Freeney, who made our entire class and program possible. And to those who support our students and staff, our family, friends, and loved ones, thank you for supporting us throughout the semester, knowing how much time and dedication our students have put in. And here to tell us a little bit more about the program and its successes are the men who started it all, Mark Howard and Marty Tancliffe.
So, as many of you know, I was wrongfully convicted at the age of 18 and served almost 18 years in prison. Mark came to visit me one day and he said, "I'll never stop fighting for you." And Mark kept his word, which was a great thing because the first picture on the right-hand side is the day I got out. And some of the other pictures are just when I was in prison, Mark and I from when I was in high school. But Mark kept his word that we would never stop fighting. And in 2018, we decided over burgers and beer at the Tombs in DC that we were going to create a program that was going to utilize undergraduate students to reinvestigate cases. And we decided to do this because we knew the power of students. We knew that if a Making an Exoneree existed, I would not have served 18 years in prison. And I really hope that everyone in the world sees the value of this program, and I really hope you enjoy tonight. So this program would not exist without a ton of people. And I want to put a special thanks to Amelia, Joy, Sully, where are you? Sully. They have been an integral part of Making an Exoneree for years now. Joy and I co-teach the law school class at Georgetown. And I also want to thank Sonia, Quinn, Nihara, Jessica, and Christian Adnan, because without this internal team at Georgetown and beyond, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And I want to give a special thanks to Chelsea and Yosha too, because without your dedication, this program would not be successful for its second year in a row.
I want to add my thanks to what Marty already said, but just say how excited we are to be back here at Princeton for the fourth year in a row, that this program is going strong. And the second year with Yosha and Chelsea, it's phenomenal to have this partnership. And this was the launching of a vision that we had that would expand this program to schools all around the country. So we have this incredible team that's here, but this is the most fun slide, because this is what we are trying to achieve in this program. You see 13 beautiful pictures of people walking out of prison, often into the arms of the students who played a role in helping to free them. This is what we are trying to achieve. This is what we hope to see with the 4 documentaries that you're about to watch tonight down the road, that their photos will be up there with some of the students who've been working tirelessly all semester on their cases. This is the goal, is freedom. And I do want to highlight and give a special shout out to Princeton, go Tigers, that 3 of those 13 were Princeton cases. So 3 and 4 years, and we think that there are more to come, perhaps even very soon. So this is really exciting. As I mentioned, the program has expanded, and Princeton was where we had our first experiment going outside of Georgetown. We've done it now 9 years at Georgetown, 4 years at Princeton. But based on the success of the Princeton model, we've also expanded to other schools. NYU, not far from here, is now in its second year. We have UC Santa Cruz on the other coast. That's also in its second year. Sully, an alum of that program. And we just started this year at Rice University in Houston, Texas. And of course, we have the Georgetown Law class, which is now in its 4th year. And I want to highlight that the undergraduates here have been creating the documentary, but they've also been working with their individual law student who is taking a Georgetown Law class, again, taught by Joey Evans with Marty Tankliff. And we have one of the law students here as well. And so appreciate her for coming. And it's a beautiful, it's a unique partnership across schools and universities, across levels, with undergraduates and law schools that are working together. So it's a beautiful program. It's one that advocates for justice, that believes that if you sit and wait for the criminal legal system to run its process, you're never going to achieve justice. You have to apply pressure. And there's no one better to do that than students, and using new technology and creating documentaries is a powerful way to push for justice and to accelerate that process. No one knows that better than one of our team members, Adnan Syed, who many people discovered through the podcast Serial in 2014, who at the time was serving a life plus 35-year sentence and had very little hope for freedom. And thanks to the publicity generated from that podcast and an even better podcast called Undisclosed, the whole world came to discover the amazing Adnan, who then became a Georgetown student while he was incarcerated. And there's a picture from the classroom that has Adnan in there. And then through the advocacy of his dear friend, Rabia Chowdhury, ultimately walked out of prison, having been exonerated. And then there was a complicated legal process, but he has remained free, and we are so glad and proud to have him in our team at Georgetown, in our team at Making An Exoneree. I do want to highlight the binder that he walked out of prison carrying, and that photo was seen all around the world with great product placement for Georgetown. He's an incredible human being. We're so proud to have him, and he's agreed to deliver some remarks to us tonight. So please welcome the one and only Adnan Syed. Sit down.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all so much for coming out tonight. We're going to hear 4 stories tonight of some really amazing individuals, and individuals who were wrongfully convicted of crimes they did not commit, and together they've spent decades behind bars, away from their family, away from their friends, away from any of their loved ones. And one of the things that we do as a society is that we recognize in each of these cases there were victims. In each of these cases, there were people who suffered, who lost their lives, and there were families who were left behind. And these families have suffered enormous amounts of grief. And one thing that we do as a society is we recognize that. It's one of the best things that we do. And we rush to provide comfort to the victims in these types of situations. We may go visit them at their homes and bring them food. We may bring them any type of warm memories we have of those who are gone. We're there to offer them as much as much compassion as we can to help them deal with their grief. We do it on a community level. We do it on a religious and spiritual level. We also do it on a governmental level, where when these types of horrible crimes occur, the police department or the state's attorney's office will offer what's called victim services, which is counseling, financial resources, any type of assistance that can help this family get through this incredibly difficult time. And it doesn't stop when the trial takes place or when this conviction is done. It continues for years after. We'll tell the family at a birthday or at Christmas or at New Year's or Thanksgiving that your son or your daughter, they should be here. They should be at this table with us. They should be here celebrating. What happened to them was wrong. And that's one of the best things we do as a society. In each of these 4 cases we're going to hear about tonight, there were also what's known as secondary victims. And this is an academic term that comes from the study of wrongful convictions. And this term doesn't denote a hierarchy of importance. It doesn't denote who has suffered more or less. This term is used for the purpose of denoting a timeline, that when the initial crime occurred, there was the first victim, and everyone recognizes that. But when these 4 individuals were arrested and charged and convicted of these crimes that they did not commit, they became the secondary victims. They became the secondary victims. And their families don't receive that same kind of support. There's no community support for them. There's no governmental support for them. No one goes to these families of these 4 individuals. No one goes to Peter's family, Lawrence's family, Lisa or Anthony's family, and says, you know what? Your son or your daughter should be here on this birthday. Your son or your daughter should be here on this Christmas, on this New Year's, on this Thanksgiving, on whatever it is that's going on. No one gives them that comfort. No one gives them that compassion. Instead, the world has told them your son or your daughter deserves to be in that prison cell. They deserve to spend the rest of their life, that they have given up their right to be free with us. So all that really changes tonight. We have a group of amazing students who've spent the past several months working on these cases so hard and producing these documentaries, at which you're going to see. And these, for the first time, are going to be, if not for the first time, at least publicly, are going to be saying to these families, to Peter and Lawrence's and Lisa's and Anthony's family, that we see you, we see your suffering, we're here to comfort you, we're here to tell you that we believe in you, and we're here to tell you that something needs to be done about this, that they do not deserve to be in prison, that they deserve to be home with you and with the rest of us. So we hope that everyone tonight takes the opportunity to watch these documentaries and to do your part, and your part is just to spread the word. If everyone in here tells 4 or 5 other people to watch these documentaries as well, then the word will get out there and more people will become aware of this injustice that has occurred. So I just hope everyone takes an opportunity to follow up with that. Thank you so much.
There have been over 3,800 exonerations since 1989, and we are so fortunate that some of these persevering folks are with us tonight. And I'd love to ask the exonerated and free people who are here tonight to stand so we may recognize you, please. Thank you so much. We would also like to ask the families of the individuals whose cases we have worked on to stand. So the Harris family who's here, the Wolazik family members who are here, Lisa's family members, and Pete's family members. Thank you all so much. Each of the individuals featured in these documentaries have a community behind them fighting for their justice, and we are so proud and thankful that you are here to share with us tonight.
Now, let's move into the part that I know you've all been waiting for, the Student Documentary Showcase.
And we'd first love to invite Team Pete Wolazik to join us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aina Marzia.
My name is Matt Klein.
My name is Aishwarya Swami Durai.
And my name is Katie Bogdanova, and we are the 4 undergraduate students working at the Princeton team here.
And I'm Eleanor Swaber. I'm the Georgetown Law student that has been working alongside the undergraduate team.
When we first enrolled in this course, we imagined it as a kind of transformative experience that would teach us the ins and outs of what we now know as the criminal legal system, and not always the criminal justice system. But I know I can speak for all of us when I say that it has truly meant more than a class block or an assignment for any of us. Making an Exoneree has brought us from different life paths to work closely and directly on the wrongful conviction of Peter Wolazik.
Pete was convicted of a murder that was in reality a tragic car accident that resulted in the passing of his late wife, Patty, in the small town of Guilford, New York. The county focused on him from the start, and since his first conviction, he has successfully appealed twice and had been tried 3 times. His case illuminates a series of misconduct and bias that has ultimately kept him incarcerated for the last nearly 25 years. In our documentary, we will tell his side of the story, one that has been swept under the rug for years.
Over the past nearly 25 years, Pete has firmly maintained his innocence and continues to do so. He has educated himself on the law and hand-filed his own 440 motion on the multitude of issues in his case, all while incarcerated. Recently, he also received his paralegal certificate and continues to help fellow incarcerated individuals navigate their own rights. Right now, he and his legal team are trying to get access to evidence that is currently being withheld by the prosecution. This includes the event data recorder, also known as a black box, that is located in Pete's truck. The data stored in this can hopefully tell us more about the events of that night. His parole hearing is also later this year.
Getting to know Pete has been life-changing for all of us. Whether it's him starting each call with his cheery good morning or ending the call with his signature, "Be safe, you guys," his resilience and his kindness is unmistakable. During his incarceration, he has served as a mentor for his peers, who often refer to him as Uncle Pete, which symbolizes his willingness to always be there for others and give his helping hand. Pete is also one of the most creative people I've ever met. He hopes and dreams to continue his passion for art as well as cross-country travel as a free man. We are deeply honored to have had the opportunity to meet Pete and get to know him and to give him the voice that he so truly deserves.
We want to thank Pete's family and friends for helping us tremendously and welcoming us into their lives with open arms. A special thank you goes out to Tom Walusiak, Pete's father, who welcomed us into his home, and Heather Walusiak, Pete's wife, and David Beers for all of their help. We would not have been able to do this without you. We would now like everyone in Pete's community that's here tonight to stand up for a round of applause. Finally, we just want to give a special thank you to Chelsea, Yosha, Sully, Quinn, and the entire MAE team for all their support this semester. This has been such a special experience, and we're very grateful. So without further ado, we present Tunnel Vision, the wrongful conviction of Peter Walusiak.
Yeah, just like come over there and sit down in the chair.
Oh, really? We're gonna do this stuff? I heard. Are you ready? Oh my God.
I know, it's so corny.
They basically turned a tragic accident into a murder.
My name is Peter Walusiak. I've been incarcerated for 24 years, going on 25.
In the early morning hours of April 3rd, 2002, around 12:30 a.m., a 1998 GMC pickup truck belonging to Peter Walusiak was driven into Guilford Lake from County Road 35. Peter's wife, Patty, was driving when the car went off the road. Peter escaped through the car window, but was unfortunately unable to save Patty, who was later found on the lake bottom. She was pronounced dead at Sydney Hospital. Peter was arrested 5 days later on April 8th, 2002 at the age of 33 based on a completely bogus police theory.
The police theory was that, Peter had picked his wife up at work at the hospital and in his truck and drove her home, forced beer down her throat, and then he took her out behind the house and strangled her, dragged her to the truck, and then drove down to the lake and let the truck drive into the lake. But that whole theory just didn't make a lot of sense.
There's simply a series of inconsistent facts or inconsistent theories from the prosecution that failed to prove that he committed the crime.
When the medical examiner did the first autopsy, he ruled it as a probable drowning, which it was.
The medical examiner later changed that to some kind of strangulation or suffocation.
They came up with this issue with the burdocks. They saw the burdocks in her hair from the autopsy pictures.
The police used this to identify what they thought was the scene of the crime, a burdock bush in the backyard. The medical examiner changed the cause of death merely on a plant.
That was the only evidence he used to change his mind. So it wasn't based on any medical evidence.
They also claimed that there was no burdock in Guilford Lake, but this was plainly false.
It is hard for me to understand how anyone would assert that burdocks were not found around the lake. I traveled there with Detective Beers. I found burdock rampant throughout the area.
Part of the drowning process involves potentially regurgitation. I noticed in the notes from the pathologist that food particles were found in the lungs of the victim. In order to go through that regurgitation and an inhalation of food particles, she has to be alive. But then she probably surely drowned.
We even consulted with our own pathologist who said that there's no reason to believe that it wasn't a drowning.
But none of these experts were allowed or able to testify on Peter's behalf. Therefore, the jurors could only hear the prosecution's prejudicial and biased testimonies.
They didn't call witnesses that would have been appropriate to the defense. It defies imagination how badly this case was conducted.
I see a lot of junk science. This was really, really bad. I mean, you have medical examiners flip-flopping, and you have botanical experts who are just flat out wrong about some of the facts that they asserted.
Every time I brought evidence to prove my innocence, then they just moved the pieces again.
The prosecution maintains that Patty was smothered, despite their own admissions that there was no evidence of it, and we don't see that on the property or on Patty's own clothing. Everyone had tunnel vision in this case. They immediately focused on Peter and refused to investigate any credible alternatives of what could have caused this tragedy. The abundance of errors in Peter's case forced him to be tried 3 times.
Shenango County is a very small county. They only have about 46,000 people. So the jury pool was very limited.
Before my first trial was even done, I had generated over 118 articles. So I was convicted in the media before I even stepped foot in court.
By the time he came back for a second and third trial, it's likely that there weren't any people left in the county that didn't know about it, that he'd been convicted before.
What would you do if somebody accused you of killing somebody that was the one thing that you protected? Even right now, I'm hopeful, but I'm scared. Because you guys got lives, you're gonna go to them. The world's gonna keep turning, and I'm still sitting here as a statistic.
He'd do anything for anybody, help anybody. He was there in time of need. You know, you couldn't want a better friend or son than Peter.
They call him Uncle Pete. He's like a caretaker of everybody.
He always sought to help. He never sought to criticize or belittle. He always had something positive to say. He was different from a lot of people I've met. He stands out.
He enjoys making art. Like this clock here he made for me, that's actually paper. The clock actually works and everything.
It's better to build and create than it is to destroy.
And he's a really genuine person. He's a really gentle soul. Once you take time to get to know him, that he's not the monster that Shenango County painted him to be.
The kids come in, I started this thing, I give them colorings, I give them crayons, because our children should never have to suffer. And when they're coming here, that can be traumatizing in a negative way. So you kind of try to make a setting for them that is, you know, not as harsh on them, because they never did anything wrong, and you want them to be happy.
I'm still waiting. I've been waiting all these years, gone through all these trials. And the fact is that keeping my fingers crossed and hope that he will finally come home.
It's a hard situation because I can't give them a definitive answer. I can't give any of them promises, and I'll be damned if I give anybody a promise that I can't keep.
I just hope that I live long enough to see it, that my son comes home. If he could get out right now and come home, at least I could lay my head down for the final time and not worry, knowing that he's by my side.
Next up, we have Team Harris.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all. Oh, no, you're good. Oh, you're good. It's okay. It gives us time to.
Over there and sit down in the chair.
Oh, really? We're going to do this?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I'm Hagar Al-Washahi.
I'm Kaylin Teta.
I'm Sophie Brissett.
And I'm James Morales. Rara Gumbel is the Georgetown law student with whom we've collaborated this semester, but she was unfortunately unable to make it to the showcase today. But she'd like to thank everyone for coming to support the documentary, and she wants to emphasize how profound an opportunity it was to work on this case.
I want to begin by asking everyone to imagine all that can happen in 9 months. A full school year, seasons, summer, fall, winter, spring, an entire pregnancy, all that can pass in that time. Now imagine you saw a stranger for the first time 9 months ago and never again. Would you stake your life on your ability to describe their face 9 months later?
For Lawrence Harris, this wasn't a hypothetical. It was the scenario that decided his fate. On a summer night in 2012, in the tight-knit Brooklyn community of Brownsville, Lawrence Harris was going to enjoy a block party with his friends.
At the end of the night, shots rang out, chaos ensued, and the life of Lawrence Harris was forever changed by the eyewitness testimonies of 2 individuals, given 9 months apart. He has now spent the last 13 years incarcerated for a crime he did not commit. To this day, Lawrence maintains his innocence and is fighting for his freedom.
Although this tragedy ripped him away from his family, Lawrence has refused to let it define who he is. He's a writer, a poet, a musician. He has filled pages with poems and songs for the people he loves, his mother, his daughter, his son, his cousins, and his friends. He remains a present father, son, and friend. In spite of his incarceration, he's passionate about obtaining his degree and advocating for himself.
We are so grateful to have gotten to know Lawrence and his family over the course of this semester. We want to thank you all for trusting us and welcoming us into your lives. Thank you to Tiffany, Lawrence's mother, Askyla, Lawrence's daughter, Tian, Juanita, and Brian for sharing your stories with us. This would not have been possible without you all.
And a special thanks to Mr. Harris's legal team at Appellate Advocates, to Chelsea, Yosha, Sully, Quinn, and the entire MAE team for your support. We are so proud to present False Accusation, Fabricated Testimony, the fight to free Lawrence Harris.
My name is Tiffany LaVon Harris. Little Lawrence is my son, my only son, my only child. I remember when I had him, I took 16 hours in labor. I was sitting there first when they get past me him, and when he looked at me, I'll never forget this, he smiled. And he grabbed my hand, and he tied my hand real tight, and I just was like, you ain't never gonna leave me. You're gonna always have your mommy back, right? So, without him, I'm broke.
911 operator, 1988, where is your emergency?
Somebody just got shot or settled between Rockland and Union.
You're in Brooklyn?
Yes, Brooklyn.
On June 28, 2012, on Sutter Avenue, between Union Street and Ralph Avenue.
No, go to Union Street. Union Street and Ralph. Union Street and Ralph. Union Street.
There were as many as 100 people on the block.
Somebody shot in the heart and another one is shot in the leg.
It was a total panic.
The person that shot, have you have a description?
No, miss, I don't know.
In the end, 3 people were struck. Tragically, Trenton Franklin was killed. And there was no ballistics evidence apart from the bullet that was recovered from Mr. Franklin's body. After the shots rang out and everyone began running, Officer Mastoros focused on one person in particular, 18-year-old Quintal Davis. Mr. Davis seemed to be the main suspect immediately following the shooting. He was arrested. He was held at the precinct for at least 18 hours.
Lengthy interrogations have been found to be really problematic with young people. And it's just because they don't have the endurance to stand up to these sort of tactics for a prolonged period of time.
Do you say your name? Swear or affirm that the statement you are about to give is the truth? Yes.
It's done with the suspect isolated, fearful, in circumstances designed to create stress, anxiety, and eventually desperation. Because you take someone, typically who is a suspect himself, and you convince him, we're not going to believe you if you just say you don't know anything about it. But if you just accuse somebody else, things won't be so bad, because pointing a finger at someone else, it's not going to get you less punishment. It's typically going to get you zero punishment.
First, Ed walks across the street. Y'all take the gun out of his pocket. He starts shooting.
Detective Trischetti testified. He showed Mr. Davis a photo array at the 73rd Precinct. Mr. Davis picked out Mr. Harris in position number 2. Patrick Scully was the people's sole eyewitness at both trials. Mr. Scully called 911 the night of the shooting, and about 2 days later, he told Detective Daniel Romano, "I was in my apartment, I heard shots, and I came downstairs." More than 9 months later, he denied speaking to a female officer, and he testified that he had witnessed the shooting.
Have your name, please, sir?
Patrick Scully.
Do you, Patrick Scully, swear or affirm that the statement you're about to give is the truth?
Yeah, I did. Now, for a sudden, he just pulled his gun and started shooting. Run towards the crowd and just shooting through the crowd. And Trey got shot. And the same time, I saw Junior got shot, hit in the back.
Scully never gave a description of the shooter, but he said that the shooter was not too dark, not too light, that he couldn't say what the shooter was wearing. He couldn't say if the shooter had tattoos. Both Scully and Davis viewed a lineup. They both separately identified Mr. Harris in position number 6. Harris then was placed under arrest.
We call that a repeated identification, and what it does is it actually unblinds the witness. So like the only person who's remaining the same from the first identification procedure to the second identification procedure is the suspect. All the fillers change.
Every time you show someone a photograph of a person, their brain is going to form a connection between that person's face and the context of the crime.
Mr. Harris was first tried in November 2015. That trial ended in a mistrial. Mr. Harris was tried again in May 2016. At the first trial, Mr. Davis answered the prosecutor's first half-dozen questions, and then he abruptly invoked his Fifth Amendment right to silence. He was later prosecuted for perjury. At the second trial, Mr. Davis was totally uncooperative on the stand. He testified that he could recall nothing about the incident. The people's case rested on the eyewitness testimony of Mr. Scully, but his story was wildly inconsistent, and it morphed over time.
One of the most powerful pieces of evidence that a jury can hear is an eyewitness saying, "That's the guy right there," pointing him out.
If we're talking about a case where the only evidence is a suspicious accusation and an eyewitness, we are talking about an extremely thin case, one that I would be very concerned about.
Mr. Harris was convicted of murder in the second degree and related charges and sentenced to 25 years to life.
Sometimes I have to remember that my father's alive, but it just feels like he's not, because I feel like I don't have one. So when I was at the father-daughter dance and watch everybody with their dads and stuff like that, my grandfather tried to make the best out of it, make me, happy, make me dance. It just made me feel bad. Like, I felt weird. Like, I felt out of place, and I didn't feel like I belonged, because I just felt like, what's the point of me being at a father-daughter dance if I don't have a dad?
I feel like I failed her a lot being in here. She's about to turn 18 this year. I feel like I just need to hurry up and get home to her. Like, I feel like it's never too late.
On Christmas when I was younger, I used to have an imagination that one of those gifts that was wrapped up. My dad was in it. He was gonna come out the box and be there for Christmas.
I just feel like if I was there, everything would have been like much better.
A memory that I do remember from when I was younger is when my dad took me to the movies. This was his first time like taking me by himself.
I took her out by myself for the first time. I was so scared. I took her to the movies downtown Brooklyn.
And I remember I wasn't listening and I was being a little crybaby or whatever.
It was just like how much like she needed me, how needy she was for me that day, and like daddy, and how like protected I had to be over like an individual, like I had never had to be in my life before. It was like one of my favorite days. that girl, that's my baby. Like that's my. Now I understand like how my mother felt about me and way she looked at me and was so much on me, like how she was, and like that love in her eyes. Like that's my baby.
Anything I can say to him? I love you. I adore you. You are my baby boy. You're gonna always be my baby boy. And we're gonna get through this. My baby is innocent. My baby is innocent.
Thank you so much. And we're now excited to invite Team Lisa Michelle Lambert. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Lucy McQueenie.
I'm Laura Zhang.
I'm Frances Brogan.
And I'm Brian Jiang. Annalie is the Georgetown Law student with whom we collaborate this semester. Unfortunately, Anna cannot be here for the showcase, but we want to take the chance to express our gratitude to all the time and effort Anna has put into the case.
Have you ever heard of someone being declared innocent and then being sent back to prison? Before this case, neither had we. But in 1997, a federal judge found the evidence of Lisa Michelle Lambert's innocence so compelling that he declared her innocent and ordered her release from prison immediately, following 5 years of wrongful incarceration. 10 months later, however, that decision was overturned based purely on a procedural error that had nothing to do with the merits of Lisa's case. After 10 months of freedom, Lisa was returned to prison for life. She has now been incarcerated for 35 years for a crime she did not commit.
On December 21st, 1991, a 16-year-old girl called Lori Sho was tragically murdered in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Although Lisa acknowledges that she was present at the scene of the crime, she left the crime immediately after the situation became violent. However, Lisa was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole for a crime she didn't commit, based solely on her abusive boyfriend's perjured testimony and the victim, Lori Sho's, dying declaration that Michelle did it, which was later revealed to be fabricated. Lisa was 6 months pregnant at the time of her conviction, and she has missed her daughter's entire life.
Lisa has maintained her innocence throughout decades in prison. In 2011, she graduated as valedictorian from Boston University's prison education program. She's passionate about painting, animal welfare, and her faith, and she is determined to free herself so she can care for her elderly mother and be present for her daughter. Lisa has served as a mentor, an advocate, and a friend for other women in the prisons where she has been incarcerated. When we visited Lisa, we were floored by her kindness, her remarkable memory for the smallest details that we shared about ourselves, and her resilience in circumstances under which most of us would crumble. We hope to be part of her life for a long time to come.
We want to take the opportunity to thank Lisa's friend, Cheryl, James, Sherilyn, and Lynn for welcoming us into their homes and never wavering in their dedications to Lisa's case. We are excited to have Cheryl and James here with us. As you can see, and we'll see in our documentary, Lisa has a steadfast support system and would also like to recognize everyone who has come before us in advocating for Lisa's exoneration. Last but not least, special thanks to Sully, Chelsea, Yusha, Quinn, and the entire wonderful MAE team for supporting us this semester. Now, without further ado, we present A Taste of Freedom, the wrongful conviction of Lisa Michelle Lambert.
And just a quick content warning, this documentary does contain discussion of sexual violence.
Like, it shocks the conscience what they did in this case.
This case really shocks the conscience on many levels.
It's the worst thing that could happen to someone. It's a miscarriage of justice.
She probably should not have been convicted.
We have found that virtually all of the evidence which the Commonwealth used to convict Lisa Lambert of first-degree murder was either perjured, altered, or fabricated.
So, just some background on Lisa. She grew up in Lancaster, oldest of 4 children.
I was born at Fort Dix, New Jersey, where my father was stationed in the Air Force, and I grew up in Amish country, Pennsylvania.
The 3 co-defendants in the case were Lisa Michelle Lambert, Tabitha Buck, and Lawrence Youngkin.
Lisa met Lawrence Youngkin in 1989 when she was 16 years old.
He did such things to her as to change her name from Lisa to Michelle within 4 days, I think. It was a very short time that he initially hits her.
The crime took place in December 1991. She was 6 months pregnant with Lawrence's baby.
Youngkin, Tabitha Buck, and Lisa were going over to Lori Sho's house for a prank to cut her hair. And when Lisa and Tabitha and Youngkin went upstairs, Tabitha started to attack Lori. Youngkin joined in, and Lisa wanted no part of it and left and waited for them on the staircase. They found Youngkin and Tabitha Buck's initials written in blood on Lori Sho's wall, indicating that she had basically told them who had committed the crime.
You know, when Hazel Show, Laurie's mother, came back to the condo, she asked her who did this to you, and according to Mrs. Show, Laurie hoarsely responded, Michelle did it.
Evidence of Lori Sho's dying declaration was pivotal in the case against Lisa. The prosecution's theory was that Lisa had this long-standing animus against Lori Show, and what happened in that apartment was an intentional murder. Lisa Michelle Lambert was ultimately convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
In late 1996, Lisa hand-wrote a habeas petition, and it landed on the desk of Judge Stuart Dalzell, kind of a conservative, no-nonsense judge.
After an evidentiary hearing, Judge Dalzell declared Lisa Michelle Lambert innocent and ordered her released immediately. The first piece of evidence that Judge Dalzell relied on was the scientific impossibility of the dying declaration from Lori Show.
With the cut in the throat, the sounds would have escaped at the level of the throat, and they wouldn't have been able to be modified by the tongue or the other speech articulators. She would not have been able to formulate the phrase, Michelle did it.
The second piece of evidence that Judge Dalzell focused on in finding Lisa innocent was a document called the 29 Questions. While in custody, Lisa Lambert had been exchanging letters with Lawrence Youngkin, and there were 29 questions asked and answered where Youngkin confessed to the crime. Question 29, Lisa, should I still cover up that you helped Tabby kill Lori? Are you absolutely sure? Youngkin, yes, I'm positive.
The other factor that played heavily in this and was not played up enough in the trial is the motive. Youngkin was being charged with statutory rape, and it makes sense that he would want the victim, who was Lori Silk, removed.
And the third piece of evidence was the wild extent of prosecutorial misconduct in her case.
What really grabbed me the most was the prosecutorial misconduct. I thought that was just horrendous and unconscionable.
Going from the editing and altering of video evidence and audio evidence to purposefully destroying evidence that would have been helpful to Lisa's case.
I thought that was really significant that a federal judge would review this case in such detail and conclude not only that it wasn't a fair trial, but that she was factually innocent.
I remember the first thing was being able to breathe in the sights and sounds of real life. My cousin Pat bought me a flowy dark green outfit, and when my daughter saw me in it, she said, "Mama Lisa, you look gorgeous." And I was at the piano singing with my dad. He was actually playing a song called Fraulein.
You are my pretty Fraulein.
You know, at the same time, you know, hanging over her head was the possibility that her freedom would be short-lived.
Our reversal was not based upon the evidence or upon any factual presentation or factual finding.
Didn't undo any of Judge Dalzell's findings of Lisa's innocence.
I've never quite seen anything like it.
After the Third Circuit's decision reversing Lisa's habeas petition, Lisa was ordered back into custody for the rest of her life.
I thought I was having a nightmare. I woke up in the cell with a bright light in my face. It was just this white, filthy cell made out of cinder blocks. And I kept thinking that I was going to wake up, but I didn't.
The disparate treatment of the defendants is really telling, right? I mean, Lawrence Youngkin ended up literally serving 12 years for his involvement in this murder. Tabitha Buck, she ended up doing, I think, 28, and she's out, right? Whereas Lisa has no chance of parole under her current sentence, and she's already been locked up for 33.
And it's such a waste to have her in there, not using all her talents.
When you look at what she's accomplished, it's pretty impressive. I mean, she got a college degree back in 2011, and since then she's continued to improve herself academically. She's won awards. She's a poet.
I feel so grateful and so blessed that I was able to obtain an education of that caliber.
She trains therapy dogs. She has done very positive things. She has been very protective of her own child. Don't forget she was pregnant at the time this all came down.
I want to be there for her and be there in her life and try to make up for all the time that I've lost with her. My mother has always been so wonderfully supportive of me. When I went to prison, she wrote to me every single day until I was released. At night, I looked to the moon and wished for a better life for you. I loved talking with you yesterday. Know that I love you and care so much about you. Love, Mom. I don't care how many hours I have to work. I want to make sure that both of my parents are loved and cared for at home. and that they don't ever have to go to a nursing home. I hope that one day I'll be able to taste freedom again. I have hope where I'll be able to see my daughter and my mother and my father and my friends and everyone that has stood by me.
If the governor doesn't act, Lisa Lambert's going to die in prison, and that could be 20, 30 years from now.
Where I loved her and left her, but I can't forget her. I miss my pretty Fraulein.
And last but certainly not least, we are welcoming Team Gregoroff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Chin. I'm Genevieve Morange.
I'm Michelle Tang.
And I'm Nikhil Kundipuram, and we are so thankful to have you all here with us today. Kira Davis is our Georgetown law student who is unfortunately not able to be here. But Kira, we know you're watching on the Zoom, and we just want to extend our deepest gratitude for all of your support that you have given our team this semester. Today, we will share with you a story of injustice, resilience, and persistence. One that will shed light on a system which has stripped an innocent man of his youth, his family, and his freedom.
Anthony Grigoroff is a father of two, an R&B fan, an aspiring personal trainer, a food lover, especially his mother's meatloaf, and so much more. Working with Anthony, his kindness and sincerity are always on full display, and every conversation we've had with him has been such a joy. Yet the story we share today is one that hopes to emphasize that his identity is far beyond what it has been confined to thus far, his conviction.
In 2009, at just 18 years old, Mr. Grigoroff was wrongfully convicted of second-degree felony murder. The case against him rests on a single piece of evidence, a false confession he gave under immense pressure from investigators and prosecutors. Since then, there have been 2 trials, both riddled with errors, and 2 resulting appeals. Anthony has spent 17 years in prison. Today, he awaits a 3rd trial and the chance to return to his family. In the audience today, we have Anthony's sister, Sandra, and his mother, Gloria. The hope, determination, and love that you have for Anthony has inspired all of us in ways we could not have imagined before this experience. Thank you so much for trusting us to share his story, and we will continue to fight for Anthony's freedom for as long as it takes. Anthony's support system has been pivotal in his fight for justice, and we would like to recognize everyone involved, from his friends, his family, to his supporters, and everyone else in between. We would also like to give a special thanks to Danielle Muscatella, who's Anthony's lawyer. Your continued advocacy for Anthony for over 10 years has led us to this point, and thanks to you, we're so close to his exoneration.
Lastly, thank you so much to Chelsea, Yosha, Sully, Marty, and Quinn, and the entire Making an Exoneree team for your continued support, making this experience truly one of the most impactful within our Princeton careers. As you watch the documentary, at the end of it, there will be a QR code present where you can learn how you, all of you, can get involved within the fight to free Anthony Grigoroff. With that, we proudly present to you all the false confession that stole his life, Anthony Grigoroff's untold story. Thank you.
Today is May 2nd, 2009. The time now is about 10 to 1 in the morning.
I thought they would actually find the truth, and it didn't work that way.
On December 31st of 2008 in Garrison, New York, a local tow truck driver named John Marcinek stopped by his garage and he was shot at point-blank range in the stomach and then twice more through the head. Following the shooting, the Putnam County Sheriff's Office started its investigation to try to find the perpetrator. The prosecution's theory is that Anthony, along with his twin, Eric, and an older friend named Byron Mountain were out driving around looking for a place to burglarize because they wanted money to spend on New Year's Eve. And they happened upon the garage, figured they'd try to get in, but then were interrupted by Mr. Marcinek, whereupon Byron pulled a gun from his waistband and shot Mr. Marcinek. There's absolutely no physical evidence to substantiate the prosecution's theory of the case. The evidence, of course, is Anthony's false confession. Anthony gave a false confession after roughly 12 hours of interrogation, without access to family, without access to an attorney, believing that if he just said what they wanted to hear, they would investigate it, know that it wasn't true because there was no evidence of it, and let him go home.
What were you thinking in all this time before you got charged?
That they would have to prove that it was true, and then they wouldn't be able to prove because it's not true. So I wasn't really worried about it. I didn't think that anything was gonna happen.
One of the promises that were made to him is, hey, Anthony, we know you weren't the shooter. We know that you were just there. Tell us what we want to hear, and we promise you'll be home to be there with your girlfriend when she gives birth to your first child.
My daughter's name is Jasmine. She was born when I first came here in 2009. I didn't really get to hold her or anything when she was small. I would like to have been home for that.
A month after Anthony provided his false confession, he was arrested and charged with the murder of John Marcinek.
A false promise from police that if you confess, you will get to go home is incredibly coercive.
All you want to do is get out of that room, and it gets to a point where you will say or do whatever you have to for the interrogation to end. And that was similar to what happened to me. I was wrongfully convicted and was in prison for almost 18 years.
As to count 2, murder, second degree. Guilty.
For me, I had just woken up to discover that my mother had been murdered and my father was clinging to life. They lie to you, they will feed you information, and they will tell you you're not going to leave the interrogation room till we hear what we want to hear.
They told me I was lying and that they know that I was involved, and that they know that Byron did it and that I was just there. They didn't want me, that they wanted him.
False confessions are a leading cause of wrongful convictions, and they are particularly prevalent in wrongful homicide convictions where the homicide suspect was a young person. And that's because the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain that's responsible for decision-making and judgment, continues to develop until approximately age 25.
Neither Byron Mountain, the alleged shooter, was ever charged for this crime, nor was Anthony's twin, Eric, ever charged for this crime, because neither confessed, which underscores the fact that the only reason Anthony was ever charged with this crime is because he made a false confession.
I met Anthony while I was preaching at the Putnam County Correction Facility. One of the first things you learn is that people are messy, and ministry is messy. But talking with Anthony, he was just open, honest, sincere. It is my firm belief and discernment that Anthony had nothing to do with the crime that he's incarcerated for. The truth is still out there, but it doesn't seem like anybody's looking for it.
Putnam County has a history of 2 other wrongful convictions that are very similar to Anthony's. Anthony DePippo and Andy Krivak.
I immediately saw a lot of similarities between his case and Anthony DePippo's and Andy Krivak's case. So first of all, the fact that the principal evidence against him was his purported confession from a police department that is completely untrustworthy, and no physical evidence tying him to the crime. Worse yet, you've got Pat Castaldo, the same lead investigator that we had, willing to do anything at all costs to convict somebody he believes, rightfully or wrongfully, committed a crime. Right before his career ended, he was caught on videotape beating a suspect who was handcuffed and on his knees. Should not be put in charge of investigating an unlicensed dog, much less a murder case.
This is just his job. This is my life, but his job. I didn't think and I didn't know any better. And I just tried to do anything I could, just try to make it home, and I ended up paying for it all these years.
This case has taken a son and a brother, and from Anthony, it's taken his youth. He's been incarcerated for 17 years. It took his freedom.
How old is Jasmine?
7.
Can you tell me about her?
Yeah, she's getting big. She's almost, she looks just like me. She's beautiful, smart. She reminds me of me.
She's now 17. She aspires to be a pilot. I don't know where she got it from, but she's also smart. She loves school, and I'm proud of her for that.
Jasmine told me, like, I can't wait, Grandma, for my father to come home. I want to be with him. She haven't had the chance to be with her father, like, outside from that place, you know. It's hard not having it home. It's hard.
You know Anthony, you know he's always got that smile, right? And always very welcoming. I really love the guy. He's a good guy.
I just want one day see all my kids in the dinner in the house, because I haven't had that for a long time. I haven't had them together for 18 years.
I know we've done a lot of clapping, but if we could just get a gigantic round of applause for the 4 of these amazing stories and documentaries tonight.
At this time, we would love to invite all the students to the stage and give the audience an opportunity to ask any questions of the students about their experience, documentaries, or the cases themselves.
And just as a heads up, we are hoping that all 4 of our program participants are going to be able to join us on the phone tonight, so we may interrupt any Q&A if we get any phone calls. So come on up. Doesn't matter as long as we're before the edge.
And if you're on Zoom, feel free to chat in questions and we'll answer them as they come up. Thank you.
We could pass the mic around, but if anyone also wants to come down and ask a question, you are welcome. But here, we'll start.
Thank you. My name is Jim Floyd, class of 1969 at Princeton. I have been on the board of Centurion, which some of you have known as Centurion Ministries. So I've met many exonerees, a couple of them who have been in for 40 years, which is absolutely unimaginable. I want to thank the professors for providing the course and the students taking the course. It is good for Princeton, my alma mater, And I also want to thank all of you who continue to do this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I had a question for the people working on Lisa's case. I was specifically curious about whether or not the previous judge's ruling of her being factually innocent can be used as evidence, for further action, or if it's the appeals that are available to her, the only next course of action is anything done by the governor of Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much for that question. So Lisa has tried to appeal her case ever since she got back into prison. So the only viable next course of action is if the governor of Pennsylvania grants her clemency. So I can also
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Unfortunately, that judge's decision cannot be used in any of her in any of her appeals going forward. And she actually has exhausted all of her state and federal options at this point. So she essentially has to appeal to the governor of Pennsylvania, and he has to pardon her, and then she would get out of prison.
But certainly the hope is that the governor would consider the fact that she's been declared factually innocent in any sort of decision. Absolutely. Thanks, Eve. Great question. Don't be shy.
My name is Wilson. I just have a question for all of the students. Thank you, all wonderful presentations. I'd love to hear anyone who wants to talk about what particularly surprised you the most as you went through this process, and what did you learn the most from?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I would say one of the most surprising things is, especially working on Team Harris's case, is kind of how common sense it is. And, it's kind of like the evidence is all there and it's very, very clear of, the evidence of all these wrongful convictions. And so I think me and my group members all among us is also kind of how did this happen? And I think that's the tragic question that happens. And, to all these cases, it's kind of how did this happen? And a part of it is why we call it the legal system and not the justice system. But I think working through this case, we get to learn a lot from the lawyers, from the professors, even from our own teammates. And I think it's trying to also grapple between the grief of the family members and sort of being super passionate about this project and getting them the justice that they all deserve. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, I'd also like to add to that. So Pete's case is particularly incumbent on expert witnesses. And so that's something that you hear a lot in criminal proceedings, right? The idea of bringing witnesses forward to tell the jury your side of the story. And in Pete's case, he had virtually no expert witnesses brought in the first trial, which fundamentally changed the direction of it going forward. So he had been convicted solely based on the witnesses from the prosecution side. He had defense witnesses who were willing to speak on his behalf, but just were never called by the attorney. And so the jury heard what was in front of them. It's incredibly compelling to hear an expert say, this is the facts of the case, and then just go with that. So that's important. Effective assistance of attorneys is really important, and that can dramatically alter someone's experience. So, advice for everyone out there, find a good attorney. Yeah.
We'll put you on the phone. We'll have a little bit of an intro.
All right.
Can everybody hear this on the phone? Pete, can you say hi to the group?
Hello, everybody. That work?
It sure did.
All right.
Go ahead, Pete.
Oh, okay. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm a little I got the nerves and I'm a little jitterish, so bear with me.
You're doing great.
So I guess we'll jump right into it. I'd like to go in an order that's important to me because it all starts somewhere. And so they say that behind every good man is a great woman. Well, on that sentiment, I'd like to start out by saying thank you to mine. Her name is Heather Marie Wolosik, my wife, my heart, my best friend, my guardian and protector at times, my lead advocate, and founder of Operation Free Pete. Unfortunately, there's so little time here. I wish I had the days needed to speak of all her praises on our journey together and our successes and failures. One thing that comes to mind, though, is she did promise me an army, and here you guys are today. Thank you, Heather. I love you. My next thanks is for God for not giving up on me, for even though all of my questioning of him and my faith as to why my circumstance happened to me. Thank you for making sure Heather and I found each other. And thank you for the wonderful people you have placed in my life and along the way. My next thanks go to Marty Pencliffe and Mark Howard for not only taking the time out of their busy lives to sift through all the evidence and facts in support of my innocence, but allowing me to be part of your noble crusade to expose and hopefully someday end wrongful convictions. Next person I'd like to thank is a person that's been with me for a while now and has endeared me, and that's Dave Beers and New Perspective Investigations. Dave, I have the utmost respect for you for being a man of honor, as well as a man of your word and standing by my side all these years. All these years has caused me nothing more than to have a profound effect and admiration of you. I'd like to thank Bruce Bartlett and Donna Aldea. We've been climbing this hill together, and I just hope we can get to the end. And next people that I don't want to forget that's been along the way helping me get here, staying course and proving my innocence is Justin Bonus and Derek Hamilton. A key person in my life has been helping me over the years is Jeffrey Deskovich of the Deskovich Foundation. I'd like to hit a personal note real quick and just ramble off the people that have contributed during this, venture here. And that would be Tom Pepe, Shamdu Wilson, a.k.a. Loki, Manny Torres, Michelle Whitman, April Grin, Jay Stefano, Maria Kramer, and all my supporters, both now and throughout the years. Without you guys, who knows what would have been. I'd like to once again give a shout out to Jeffrey Deskovich and the Deskovich Foundation. I'd like to give a shout out to the NYS, DOCS, Federal Oversight Group, Bell Bonet, Bell Kate. Another shout out goes to Tim Pena, founder of the Veterans Justice Project and advocate for the forgotten veteran. Your help with us during this wrongful conviction, as well as with my veteran status, has been much appreciated. I'd like to give a thanks to Commissioner Marticello and Assistant Commissioner Kalana, Superintendent Delmar of the facility I'm currently housed in, and a big thank you and warm respect for Death Law Liberty. In many ways, more than you would know, you've been helpful in staying the course. I'd like to thank the Princeton and Georgetown administrators, the faculty, and the professors. Your guidance and your willingness to have such an event is amazing. I'd like to once again thank Marty Tanklist and Mark Howard for not only taking the time out of your busy lives to sift through all the evidence and facts, but allow me to be part of this, because this is what I've been waiting for a long time. I would like to thank my team, and God, we don't have enough time in the day or enough hours. I mean, Eleanor, Had for you, Katie, Nat, Ayana, Amanda, and Ayush. I didn't know what to think at first because this is, all new to me, and you guys have really made an impact and made a difference in my life, and it's been almost spiritual as well as therapeutical to work with you. I know you guys are going to go far. I'd like to thank. Hello.
Hello. Sorry, we're running low on time, but we appreciate you, and yeah.
Wrap up with I'd like
Sorry to rush
thank
you.
the audience. I'd like to thank the audience, whoever's given us their ear and their understanding. And I'd like to finish out with, I'd like to thank my fellow wrongfully convicted, both known and unknown, as well as their families. Stay strong and stay the course, because squeaky wheel gets oil, and if we don't keep protesting our innocence and keep fighting the system, we're just gonna fade away. I guess that's all I'll have for now.
Yeah. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Pete.
Great. Is there any questions from the crowd?
Awesome.
Yeah, I left it, Mike.
My name is Tim Pena. Thanks, Pete, for the shout out. I run an organization for incarcerated veterans. I was going to ask Pete, but I just asked Heather.
I'm sorry to cut you off, sir. We have another call coming in from Lisa. This is what we do in class too. We stop everything when somebody calls from prison. So I apologize for interrupting. We're going to grab Lisa on the phone and then we'll come back to your question.
Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello?
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. We're here with everyone who was part of Making an Exoneree and everyone who came to the showcase. We've got you up to a microphone so they can hear you.
Okay.
There's so many people here who just watched your documentary. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Aw.
So exciting.
Okay.
And this is just a moment if you want to say anything to all the people here. This is your time.
Yes, I do. Okay, my name is Lisa Lambert. It is impossible for me to ever think of making an exoneree without thinking of Marty Tancliffe and the tragedy that befell him at the age of 17. The news footage from that day will never be erased from my mind, or the terrified dazed expression on Marty's face. He was an innocent kid that had just had his parents horribly taken from him. Marty was falsely accused, sent to prison, and he could have chosen to be bitter, but he fought to clear his name and made the choice to help other falsely accused people instead. Marty, thank you so much. I would like to thank Joy Evans, Kelsey Malkin, and my 5 Princeton students for driving 10 hours to visit me, not once, but twice, and for being so kind, trustworthy, and dedicated to obtain justice in this case where such a travesty occurred, and for tirelessly working to make my documentary. Brian, Lucy, Laura, Francis, and Anna, thank you so much. I want to thank Cheryl and James Corbett for driving 5 hours down to New Jersey to be there for the showcase, and for picking up my paintings, for being my Massachusetts family, and for being interviewed for the documentary. I also want to thank Sherilyn Corbett, Angus Love, David Brown, and Lynn Scorsese, and everyone else willing to stand up for me. I also want to thank Giovanni Hannett for having such a crucial role in getting my legal documents and transcripts to the team. And I want to thank Dr. Charles Larson for supporting me, and Dr. Weck for believing in me the whole time he was alive. I want to thank my daughter, my mom, and my dad, everyone who supports me, and everyone who just came tonight to bear witness. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very sorry to have interrupted your question, but we'd love to get back to it.
So the question was, for those who are looking for exoneration, but you may be looking at parole, what is the parameters, or how does that work if you are required to admit to the crime before you're granted parole, or is that no longer necessary?
That's a hard question. I'll take it as a lawyer. I think it's a difficult one. I think every state is different. But yes, I do think when someone is up for parole, there is, pressure to take accountability, because that is something that parole boards consider when they are deciding if somebody should be granted parole. So yes, it is a big gray area that when someone is trying to get exonerated and then potentially their release date comes up, it's a big question. Do you say you did it to get out and then fight for your innocence later? That's a huge question. And I think you could ask every lawyer in this room and the answer would be different on how, what the advice is. But our main goal is getting these folks out of prison however we can, right? So if parole is coming up, parole is the focus. If clemency is the only option, clemency is the focus. We will continue to fight for innocence. These cases don't end here. Every student has an opportunity to continue working on the case. These participants are always a member of the Making an Exoneree family. We don't just drop their cases once the semester is over. So the goal is freedom, and whatever that means, the most immediately.
For the Lisa Lambert case, I noticed that Josh Shapiro is ending his first term. He's running for re-election in November as a middle-of-the-road Democrat. It appears that this video would be a very powerful weapon in a social media campaign to compel him to act if you could get sufficient signatures or a sufficient voting block, either immediately before or immediately after the election, especially considering the fact it's likely he's going to run for president in 28. So is there any effort being made that you know of to organize a petition campaign or a social media campaign to compel him to act?
So the Lambert team is on the phone with Lisa, but I could tell you that I think there's lots of plans in the works now to try to get Lisa out. I think the immediate idea is clemency, because that seems to be sort of the last possible remedy. But I think that the team would love to discuss this with you when this is done and when they're back inside. And I believe we have Lawrence Harris on the phone. So we're going to take a pause.
It's Kelsey, Dave, and Caitlin, right?
Yep, Kaylin, Sophie, Hager, and James.
Kelsey, I know your name, Hager. All right, Hager. All right, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, you're on speaker, so whenever you're ready, you can start.
All right. First and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to my queen of my life, my mother. Ma, thank you so much for continuing to have my back at the most important times of my life. I love you so much, and I also want to thank my baby girl. Thank you, Skylar, for participating. Little Meanie, I love you so much with all my heart. Thank you to Brian and Juanita. Thank y'all so much. Even though y'all ain't make the cut, thank y'all. And I appreciate y'all so much. And last but not least, thank my Making an Exoneree team, Hager, James, Kelsey, and Caitlin. Thank y'all so much for believing my innocence. If anybody think y'all just doing this for a grade, they are wrong. I felt y'all good vibes and vibrations from the beginning. Thanks for making me feel so comfortable through this process. And it was and just thank you for being y'all. And whatever any of y'all do for y'all futures, it's gonna be amazing. And and thank you, one more thank you. Thank you to Lance. That's the one that's there now with the glasses. Even though he wasn't in a documentary, thank you for always supporting me and having my back also. And he took off of work for me, and that man don't never take off of work. So big shout outs again to my Making Exoneree team. Big shout outs to my mother, my family, my daughter, and everybody in the other Making an Exoneree. And I wish y'all the best also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you.
Great.
So first one is just a comment. Thank you for what you're doing, because as somebody who is wrongfully imprisoned, I love what you're doing and you're making a difference. The question is this: 3 of the program participants were relatively your age group when they went to prison. What is the one thing you've learned in your own life that you would take away from working in this class?
I think the first thing I'd say is like, not everybody knows that the police can lie to you and tell you things that aren't true when you've been arrested. And that seems kind of simple, but I would just tell anyone who's my age and like your brain hasn't fully developed, and if the police are telling you things that might not be true and that you don't have to admit to.
I think we have Anthony on the phone.
Hey, you're in a room full of people. I'm going to give the phones.
I'm so excited. We have all 4 calling in. Here comes Mr. Grigoroff.
Hi, Anthony. I'm taking me to the group. Okay. Someone can talk.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
I'm fine.
Well, if you don't know, today we showed your documentary to, I'd say, over 200 people. And here also is your mom and your sister. So everyone can hear you. So if you want to say hi.
Hi, everybody. So what you doing? How did it come out? Yeah. How did everything come out? How did it look? What's going on?
Hopefully good. I think Danielle's going to show it to you in your next visit, hopefully.
Sounds good. Yeah, well, thanks for everything. Well, you guys. Yeah, I did a lot of work.
You can say hi. You could say hi to Sandra or Gloria right now if you want. They're here.
Oh. Hi, Ma. Hi, Sandra.
Anthony, can I ask you how it was working with the students, what this process was like for you as a participant in the program?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Oh, what was the experience like participating in the program and working with us students?
It was different, I mean, obviously, I've never done it before, but I thought everything went well. I think.
Do you want to talk to Anthony?
Huh?
Oh, okay. How's it going? What'd you do today?
What?
I said, what'd you do today?
Same on like every day. But it's my normal routine. I mean, nothing different.
Did you work out?
Yeah. Yeah. Do that every morning.
So we have the whole audience here still who watched your documentary. Is there anything you want to say to them?
No.
Okay, I'm out of pressure.
I don't know. I hope you learned something from it. I don't know. No. Maybe you can take something from it. I don't know.
I think they.
I hope I answered all the questions you wanted to know, or anything you guys wanted to know. So.
Yeah, this was perfect, Anthony. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night, Anthony. Bye.
And yeah, I think we were finishing up Marty's question if anybody had an answer.
Yeah, I like just on Sophie's point, I think it's like really important to emphasize that like whenever you think that like the police wouldn't do that, they probably would. And so I think it's hard to grapple with the fact that these systems that are meant to, be just and to create safer communities end up not doing that in a lot of cases. And each of these cases, I think, just as a student perspective, had different issues in them. And I think it's very important to recognize that it's very easy to kind of just create like a false story or narration based on any kind of evidence possible. I think just from our case, like even just him being convicted on a plant. And so that's just, it seems very unserious at first, but it's very important to recognize that these things do happen. And just from like a student perspective, that And now I'm just more cautious about everything more than I was before.
I'd also just add that before this, I didn't realize that false confessions happened, and they do. And we have somebody here who had falsely confessed to the murder of his parents. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to think that, that's something that they would do. But obviously, Marty is an incredibly intelligent individual. And I think people don't understand that when you're confined in a room for an extended period of time and investigators are using the read technique, et cetera, are threatening you, lying to you, telling you you'll go home if you tell them X, Y, and Z, it's actually very possible for people to falsely confess, especially youth, 18-year-olds like Anthony and like Marty.
I guess on a different note, something that I learned working with our program participant, Pete, is I was very much struck by how strongly he stood to his values and the conviction he had towards being true to himself this whole time. I think it was such a life-changing experience when we went up and visited him for the first time. We spent basically from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. just chatting, just talking to him. And I learned so much about how deeply he cares about his family, and that despite all of this, he has this immense resilience and drive and just great morals that I think is really important. No matter in what situation you're in, I think that's something that I definitely take away from this entire experience.
Up there.
Hi, first of all, thank you very much. Those were very impactful presentations. I was curious whether or not going into the course, if you were all planning a career in law or filmmaking, and after the semester, whether or not your career focus has changed.
Hi, thank you for that question. I would say that I've always been interested in a career of law, but I would say my view of incarceration and the legal system has completely changed after this program. And I will say, I think my first experience with any type of incarceration work is that unfortunately many people don't see incarcerated individuals as part of our community. When people think of, ways to better our community, everyone is thinking of everyone that's here, but not incarcerated individuals, and how many people are still in prison for crimes they haven't committed, or the lack of resources, or, bad counsel, or, just all of these different things that affect many people's lives tragically, and it also affects their families. So I would say definitely this program has opened my eye a lot to different legal aspects and avenues regarding incarceration specifically, rather than your just like a legal career in general, and especially public defense has clearly opened a whole different avenue to that as well. So.
I'm not sure if the Zoom can see me, but yeah, after graduation, I will be going to law school. And I think just being pre-law at Princeton, it's a great institution, but sometimes a lot of classes you learn about the law on a theoretical level, but it's really through classes like Making an Exoneree where you go on a practical level, you talk to the program participant and get a real understanding of what the criminal legal system does, how it operates, and why exactly we need good lawyers and good advocates in this space. So I think, I don't even know, even going to law school, I haven't gone yet, but I'm sure that this class would actually be one of the standout classes I take in terms of the amount of legal advocacy that I get to do. So I'm very, very excited to go to law school, and this class has really prepared me for that path.
I can also say, I think that a lot of people and a lot of times lawyers sort of rely really heavily on facts without recognizing that the law as an institution is also one that heavily relies on storytelling. So much so that in a lot of these cases, and in all four of these program participants' cases, stories were painted by the prosecution that just completely misrepresented what actually happened and what went down. And so I think it's critical that students are being trained on different avenues of advocacy and how to masterfully pair both, factual analysis with the ability to tell someone's story with conviction, with force, and with the truth. And so I think this class does that really masterfully, and I think more people need to think about that as forms of advocacy.
Yeah, just to add on, I think learning about these cases and at the start of the class, it was quite devastating to see what has happened to these participants and a lot of the misrepresented facts about them. But this class has also given me hope to be a part of something that can hopefully, help exonerate these participants. And I do think it's given me more hope and inspiration to be a part of the law.
Great job, guys. You put a lot of work in, and that's obvious, and it was really great. I have a question, but first I just want to comment on the girl that just spoke about the storytelling. I really liked what you said, and as a trial lawyer myself, and every other lawyer in the room could say that, even if you have the facts on your side or the law, you have to be able to convey it, especially as a trial lawyer to a jury, on paperwork as an appellate lawyer. And if you can't persuade someone, it doesn't matter, you lose. So storytelling, whether it's in a documentary, whether it's, just speaking publicly, is so, so, so important, because that's really what it is. So I really like that point. The Georgetown Showcase, somebody asked the question that I liked the other day, so I'm going to steal it and ask it to you guys. It was something along the lines of, when you took this case, were there any interesting conversations you had to have with your parents or friends or significant others? I don't know if not every single person, sees things the same. As you commented before, a lot of people don't consider incarcerated people, part of the community. Adnan had a really good speech about that before. Any interesting conversations or thoughts anybody feels like sharing?
I can take this one. And I think specifically, I think Genevieve touched on it briefly. Like, for us, the notion that people can falsely confess is really foreign to us, like initially really foreign. And I think when we took on this project and I was trying to explain to people, what we were doing, the first question will always be, well, how do you know they're really innocent, right? And then obviously conversations from us would start talking about a false confession. And then they would be like, well, why would anybody falsely confess? And that doesn't make sense. And I think a really good example was actually an example Marty gave us. And I think it's really beneficial to share. So imagine that you and your sibling, one of you guys broke a lamp in your house. And then your parents come back home and then they see all four of you guys are there together. And then you see that this lamp is broken. Your parents are going to be like, if one of you doesn't confess right now, we're not going to go get ice cream. One of you guys might just take the blame and say, hey, I broke this lamp. Let's go get ice cream. I'm sorry. Now scale that all the way up where the stakes are, you're going to be in prison for the rest of the life, or you might die in prison. And then you have a chance, just say what we want to say and then you can get out. So I think that definitely was the most profound conversation that I found myself having with people about this experience.
I think just to add on to that, I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where Lisa was convicted. So I had a lot of interesting conversations with family and friends who are connected to some of the people who helped to perpetrate this injustice, and a lot of conversations with people who are extremely progressive in other areas of their life. And we're like, how could you possibly be helping to exonerate that woman? And I think for me, that really just kind of amplifies the whole cognitive dissonance of the criminal legal system, and how it just appeals to our most vindictive instincts, that people who could otherwise be so progressive could be so vindictive when it comes to a case like this, where the defendant was so obviously innocent, we think. But that was a crazy experience.
I was just going to say quickly also with Lisa's case, I thought it was really interesting because I think compared to some of these other cases, it's a little more gray, just in the sense that she was there, she was present at the scene of this crime. And I think that makes it a little more complicated for people to understand why she might still be innocent of the crime she was convicted of, because it's not a situation where it's she wasn't even there, she was in a different state, she has some alibi, And so I think having conversations with family and friends about trying to understand how a person could get into that situation and still be innocent and still not deserve to be in prison has been really important and just a new thing for me.
In my case, I think a conversation I started to have with myself and a lot of my family was just this immense sense of gratitude that I had for my family and my support system. And as we've seen this evening, all of these participants have just incredibly, incredibly strong support systems. And over the course of my life and over the course of the semester taking this class, it's become increasingly clear to me how important it is to reach out, even if you're not blood related, even if this is someone you don't know as well. Like, the lack of a community in any sense of the word can absolutely destroy a life. And just watching these documentaries and working with my team and getting to understand how much impact we have on one another, I think really changed my outlook on life in a lot of ways, and I guess pushed me to experience life in a more complicated way. Like Lucy was just saying, like, not everything is as easy as did you or didn't you do it? Were you or were you not there? Like, there's so many alternative explanations for things. And even in the case, we've been talking about people who are wrongfully convicted, and I think that that's like an incredibly important conversation to have. But the conversation about humanization and having empathy and reaching out to people even extends to those who are rightfully convicted, who have done the wrong thing. And once you go to jail, you don't become subhuman. And I think that that's part of the I guess the motivation for this program is to encourage us as students, as people who think, well, that could never happen to me. I would never tell a lie. I would never be in that situation, to understand that it could happen to you. And because of that, we have to like understand each other as human beings and try to reach out even in situations that we ourselves don't fully understand.
We're going to take some questions from the chat. This is a logistical question, but why was there a 9-month gap between the shooting and the trial of Lawrence Harris? Anyone?
Only the DA's office knows that answer. To us, it means there is a problem with the case, right?
Also, if people in person have questions, you guys can still raise your hands. What was the biggest challenge the filmmakers faced while creating the documentary about Harris? But also, any of you guys could answer. What is the biggest challenge the filmmakers faced while creating the documentaries?
I think a big challenge that we faced, and I think a lot of other groups face, is that 8 minutes is really not a lot of time to tell somebody's life story. And Mr. Lawrence's beautiful family is here today, and we spoke to Tiffany Harris and Eskyla for genuinely hours, but you were only able to see a small portion of that conversation. And there are so many elements of Lawrence's case, and I'm sure everyone else is up here, that we just didn't really get to portray, and it was difficult to think about in both a humanistic and an analytical way how to tell this story the best and how to get across so clearly what we ourselves know to be true and what we've been seeing. And in all these cases, we've read all the documents. Like, we've seen every piece of evidence in these people's cases, and it's really hard to decide what is useful. And it starts to feel a little, this is a juvenile word, but it starts to feel a little icky sometimes when you have to cut things. But in the end, it's a very worthwhile process because we're trying to create something that can help people outside of the case understand. So I hope we portrayed that.
Just add really quickly also, just like, I know many of us have also shed a tear or two watching these documentaries, but these families have experienced it themselves. These incarcerated individuals, these participants have all experienced it themselves. And at least with me, like, filming and interviewing the family members was one of the hardest, but also most, worthy. Like Kaylin said, it just puts so many things into perspective for us. And like, we're asking them to share their deepest, darkest moments with us and like to portray it and basically relive it. And so thank you, Tiffany, for doing that. And I know how hard it was. But again, like, we genuinely, all of us truly feel privileged to have heard your stories, and you guys trust us with it. So thank you.
Your further participants get out. How many of you will be there that day?
Question was, how many of you will be there on the day your participant gets out? I think we got time for one more.
I have a personal question for all of you. As you said, a lot of weepy eyes doing the documentaries. How do you handle the pain?
I can start with this question. And I think I speak for everyone when I said, like, when we came into this process and came into this class, our professors were very clear with us from the get-go. This is not going to be easy. This is going to be one of the most, impactful experiences of your lives. You're going to experience emotions that, you didn't know that you could. And I think what the support system that we ended up building was within our groups, our teammates. I remember when we came back from a bail hearing for our client, which unfortunately he lost, I remember all of us just sitting there kind of in shock and in silence, but knowing that we had each other to at least talk about what this experience really is and what this means to us has been really, really impactful. And I think having, the support system here, the support system of our professors, Marty, the MAE staff has just been truly immense.
For me, I think one of the ways I handled kind of the entire process is really just putting everything I could, all the effort of the whole team, really. I think I can speak for all of us that as we got closer and closer to this showcase, it became so important to all of us that we wanted this to be as immaculate as possible in telling the story the right way and in the best way possible. And so for me personally, for the past few weeks, everything else outside of this doesn't feel real. This is the real thing to me that I felt like has not only taken up a lot of our time, rightfully so, but I think it's become the significance of this, I think, has really hit home for a lot of us that a lot of other things do not compare in terms of this, in terms of significance and scope, I think, around this. And so I think one of the things I've done is really just put in all the effort I can to make this as strong as possible. And I'm sure everyone else here as well.
Yeah, just to add, I think we leaned on each other a lot. This work is frustrating. Editing is hard. We would edit for hours and then it would look like we just made like a small change. And so, I'm really grateful for my team, for my class. And yeah, we drove to see Pete and his family. Matt, Aishwarya, and Aina kept me awake driving 5 hours there. And so I'm just really grateful because hearing Pete's voice in the morning, like when he had legal calls with him every morning, every Monday at 9 a.m., just hearing him and seeing him was like, okay, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this, and kept us inspired to do this work.
You guys could stay up here, but we just want to thank you all for being part of this experience. And we hope that the stories of Mr. Harris, Ms. Lambert, Mr. Wolazik, and Mr. Grigoroff continue to reach as many people as they fight for their freedom. And we look forward to adding to the 13 people that this program has helped walk out of prison. So thank you all for being here tonight.